In a reaction to my video about the history of religion, a gentleman posted a comment to say that Moses wrote the first 5 books in the Bible, and because he lived now 1500 BC, basically my timeline is all wrong. Now, I replied that he is wrong about that, and he must please watch my next video. And then shortly after that, I realized that my next video, because it was so long, I actually edited out the part that I discuss this question. Did Moses write the first 5 books of the Bible 1500 BC? Now, another thing that I edited out was the fact that I was reading from a little book that I wrote myself. So it's my own notes that I'm reading from. But this question about whether Moses wrote the first 5 books 1,500 years ago, biblical scholars in the 1800s, they started to question this, and what brought about this question mark was the fact that in the first 5 books of the Bible, Moses' death is actually described. Now, you can predict your own death perhaps, but you cannot describe your own death. So that sort of started this critical questioning about the accuracy of that particular assertion that Moses wrote the first 5 books in the Bible. And what biblical scholars found when they started to study the texts, the old original text and so on of the first 5 books, is that it's problematic. They, for instance, found that the writing styles differed almost from paragraph to paragraph. They realized that there's contradictions in dates, place names, and some other details. And some of the accounts, the name Yahweh is used for God, whilst others use the word Elohim. Now, I think it's fair to expect when it's the same author of the first 5 books, you wouldn't have these contradictions, and God would be described by one name, and places and dates and so on would not be contradictory, it would be the same. So that is why biblical scholars now have started to focus on this question. And one of the first scholars, a German scholar by the name of Julius Wellhausen, this is now 1878, he proposed a scheme which is still widely used today. And he said that basically there's 4 basic sources for the first 5 books of the Bible. And he named these sources J, E, P, and D. Now, J stands for those sources which use the word Yahweh for God, and E for those sources which use the word Elohim. P stands for those sources which focuses on priests and worship, and D for Deuteronomy. Now, today, scholars, they believe that these sources were actually written between 400 and 600 years after the death of Moses. Now, I suggest to you that actually people who stand on the pulpit and tell their believers that Moses wrote the first 5 books 1,500 years ago, they actually know the truth, but they are not being honest. And also that is why, as I explained in my previous video, why there are so many contradictions, even from paragraph to paragraph. Because what biblical scholars have found is that Genesis, for instance, paragraph 1 and paragraph 2, there's a massive contradiction between the two. There's a different writing style between the two. And so it continues. So it really, there is a big question mark about this fact that Moses wrote the Bible, or the first 5 books, such a long time ago. Now, in 1835, a scholar by the name of David Friedrich Strauss, he published a book with the title Life of Jesus. And in this book, he came to the conclusion that it's impossible to construct a true biography of the life of Jesus because the early church had embellished and transformed the Gospels too much. And I think it's fair to say that it's something that most biblical scholars agree with. And and you don't even need their word for it. You can do the exercise yourself. As I explained in my previous video, if you go and have a look and you take a pen, take the Bible and write, what did Mark say about the resurrection? Write it down. What did Luke say about it? Write it down next to it. What did Matthew say about the resurrection? Write it down. And my exercise, I was astonished to see that the first three parts, all three versions, the first part, the big majority of it, was exactly the same, word for word, exactly the same. But then Mark's is short and abrupt, people didn't like, and then Matthew and Luke, they have sort of invented a more popular versions of the resurrection, which is totally in contrast with each other. So, to just get back to this situation of Moses writing the first 5 books in the Bible, 1500 BC, the evidence doesn't back it up. And I want to suggest to you, I seriously want to suggest to you that people who are learned about the Bible, people who are now preaching about it, they know, but they are being dishonest by not telling people. So, once again, I want to submit to you that the Bible is not a reliable source for any argument. So, be careful when you do that. And I want to urge you once again, don't take my word for it. Do your own proper research and go and look at those factors that I highlighted.